to the fifth episode of the Working in Tech podcast. Can you believe 2024 is almost here already? I hope you all are having a wonderful holiday season. But before we dive into today's SAP discussion, I want to wish you all a happy new year in advance. And if you haven't heard about SAP, it's short for System, Applications, and Products. It's an enterprise solution software that helps large companies manage core business operations like supply chain, finance, HR, and a lot more. SAP integrates complex processes and provides real time data so executives can make better decisions. It's not as widely talked about, though, like platforms like Salesforce, but SAP is the backbone for many Fortune 500 companies. Today, we have Toye, a true SAP expert, joining us to share his insights from over 17 years of experience working across big tech and the big four consulting companies. And since most of you might be new to SAP, Toya's wealth of knowledge is going to help you thrive in your career in SAP if that's what you're choosing, and also show you the different career pathways available in SAP. But before I go to Toye, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This support will help us continue to deliver great content every single week. Welcome to the stream, Toye.
Thanks, Joanne. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, just diving straight into the deep end, why, given how obscure SAP is, why did you decide to pursue a career in that field?
Yeah, thanks, Joanne, for having me. So I started my SAP career almost close to 2 decades ago, right? My actual background was in mechanical engineering. Then when I came to the US almost 2 decades ago, I was working for the state of New Jersey as an independent contractor. And one of my friends told me about SAP. I said, "What's SAP?" He said, "Oh, it's an enterprise resource planning application that is used by big organizations to power their processes." So that was what intrigued me, and I got my curiosity, and I started looking into it, and I said, "Okay, it looks like this is a really big enterprise resource planning application." At that point in time, Oracle was the family name that we all know. So that's how I started researching about SAP, and I realized that 9 out of 500 Fortune company, 100 Fortune company, they actually running on SAP in the back end. So that's how I started. I started making contents there and there. It wasn't like these that we have today, that you have wealth of resources and tools on the web that you can leverage. So I had to reach out to friends, talk to a friend. Then I got somebody that that actually trained me in SAP, and I focused on that at that point in time on sales and distribution and materials management module. So I did the training. Then I started looking for a job. Did tons of interviews, but I spent a lot of time doing my own research as well. Spend a lot of times every day. I'll go into the system. I'll look into these, research stuff, and so that's how I started, and I got the first job. And since then, the rest wasn't history. But I think today, the people that are really interested in SAP, that actually want to choose SAP as a career, they have a better, opportunity to leverage the online platforms and resources and tools that are online to actually even help them to get there quickly. So that's how I started, Joanne, just to give a quick background.
Yeah, that's great. You touched on something that I kind of like want to drill into, because until I think I was on one of your webinars, that's when I learned about this the first time. And it really blew my mind away. So just to bring it back, you said that 9 out of 10 Fortune 500 companies use SAP in some form.
That's correct. I think I'm even being conservative. I could confidently say 10 out of 10. But, I would say 9 out of 10. Every Fortune 500 company that you can think of today, the likes of Google, Microsoft, Apple, Walmart, AT&T, Verizon. I mean, any organization that you can think of, they run on SAP on the back end, for sure.
So when you say to run SAP, like for the untrained eye, right, what does that mean? Like, how exactly are they leveraging the platform to do like that day-to-day stuff?
Right. So SAP is a robust enterprise resource planning application, and it can integrate with any type of user-friendly application. What does it mean? So it means it can interface with your points of sale. Like for Walmart, they run an SAP in the back end, but when you go to Walmart to buy something, it's being integrated to the point of sale, right? For the companies like Microsoft, they run SAP in the back end for their order processing and supply chain capabilities. But when you go online and go to Microsoft.com and buy any of the product or warranty or any Microsoft product, that's integrated into SAP in the back end. So that's what I mean. You might not be, as an end user, you might not be interacting with SAP directly, because the SAP can integrate and give you user-friendly application. It could be mobile application, desktop application, or phone application for you to use. But in the back end, the actual processing of that data and order and invoicing, it's been done by SAP in the back end.
So, and just to kind of like even break it down a little further. So I walk into a Walmart, right? I purchase an item, right? Let's say a can of Coke. That order is registered at the back end. Now they know like they have one less Coke, and now there's an inventory order going to a location saying we need to resupply Coke here on Wednesday, or just kind of like that demand and capacity management, just talking to different systems at the same time. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, that's what it's like, but it's very intuitive and very integrative in its own manner. So SAP integrates with both SAP and non-SAP application, like you're talking about. So when you go to Walmart, you buy one can of Coke, and you pay for that. So the order has been registered in SAP in the back end. Then there is an inventory movement saying your inventory has been reduced. So what does it do? So the SAP will trigger a transaction which is called I can receive receivables, meaning that you've made some sales now. There's money that should be going to your account receivables. So there's different integration parts to SAP. But from user standpoint, you go in there, you just give them your money. The cash receipt that is coming out is being integrated with SAP as well. There's a different order type that you're using for retail purposes as well. And also SAP is used across every sector in the world as well. Retail, consumer goods, high tech, communication, whatever you want to think of, oil and gas.
Wow, that's mind blowing. So what resources and platform? Because again, I think one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation is like this is a huge part of tech or almost any industry to think about, but it's not talked about. Like it's not like software development or product management or things like that, where it's like so in everybody's face. So you wonder exactly like how does someone actually break into this kind of industry? Where do you find the resources? Or how did you find a resource when you were trying to break into SAP?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, John. And I think the reason why SAP is not being talked about is most of the professionals doing SAP, they're just, in their own world, right? You're just doing their own thing and just not like, people talking about Scrum Master or product management or data analyst and stuff like that. However, SAP is the core for businesses. Look at it from this way. If any company is running on SAP, if the system goes down, they cannot even make $1. Right? So it's really important for the business. It's not an integral part of the business anymore. It's the core of the business now. Now, to your question, how do you, get into SAP? How do you leverage resources? I think there are tons of resources you can leverage online. YouTube, there's so many YouTube videos out there that will teach you the basic of SAP. There's some training academies out there, where they train people to become SAP expert. Even SAP Germany itself, they have their training academy as well. I remember when I was at Deloitte, there are some freshers from out of college. They take them to SAP Academy for 3 months, train them on SAP, they get certified, right? So today, it's become much more better back compared to where it was 20 years ago when I started, where there are limited resources or limited people doing SAP that you can leverage. I think today the opportunity is enormous and unlimited for people that want to tap into that. You could go online, register for courses. You could go online and watch YouTube video, and it breaks it down for you. Also, I do have a training academy where I train few people as well on SAP. But I think it's all about, are you ready to put in the work and are you ready to learn? And, I think that's the most important thing, that you should be able to leverage the tools and resources that are available online.
Great. So how did you navigate as somebody new going into SAP when you started out? How did you navigate the job application process? One of the things I've heard a lot of this on this interviews is that, getting that first job is the most difficult. It's the most challenging. What was that like in your experience?
Yeah, so what I did is to spend a lot of time and dedicate time and effort into it. I did a lot of interviews. I remember that my first interview, to be honest, I think I was talking to KPMG at that point in time, was the director. The interview was supposed to last for 45 minutes. I think we're 15 minutes, and the guy's like, no, this is not going well. you know. So what I usually do at that point in time, that was almost 18 years ago, is every interview that I go to, any question that I think I didn't answer very well, I write it down. Then I go do some research on it. Okay, we're talking about pricing procedure. I didn't answer that very well. Let me go do some research. So every interview becomes better and better and better. Before you know it, then you will land that job. Right. That was my approach. But today I think there's so many resources that you already even have an idea what the interview is going to look like, what they're going to ask you. If you're just looking for like a entry level of 3 to 5 years of experience, you should be able to understand the basic concept of SAP, sales and distributions of materials management. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. I had to go through multiple interviews, write those questions down, go research it, then come back again before I got the first one. But once you got the first one, then the next one is a piece of cake.
It's a lot easier. Okay, great. So, what was you had mentioned one strategy that you used to prepare for interviews. Were there other things that you did? Were there other things that helped you prepare better for interviews? And maybe talk me through like when you finally got the job. How did that first one? What did that look like?
Yeah. So one of my strategies, every job that I apply to, and if the recruiter or the company reaches out to me saying, okay, Toye, we're really interested in your profile, we want to move forward, I go read the job description. What are they looking for, right? Oh, they're looking for somebody that understands EDI. Do I have EDI knowledge? If I don't, then I go research about EDI. It's okay. Are they looking at backorder processing? Okay. Do I have a decent understanding of backorder processing? Can I speak to that, right? I do my own work. I do my research, learn about the company itself. What do they do? How do I tie that? And have a story as well, right? To say, okay, this is how I started my journey. This is how I moved into SAP. I know this is what your organization is doing. I know you're in manufacturing, or I know you're in retail, or I know you're in oil and gas, or I know you're in high tech, right? That was my strategy. Then I'll go into those interviews well prepared. Then at the end of the day, you still don't get 100% of those questions right, no matter how you prepare. Then you learn from that, then you continue. But as you continue the journey and interviewing, it becomes more or less much more easier, because you now understand that, okay, most of the time, the people are going to ask you about pricing, right? Because if you're an SD person, you should know pricing. You already know, okay, it's going to talk about shipping point determination, route determination, right? As an SD guy, right? It's going to talk about order types, what different order types. So it becomes easier and easier then, before you get that first job. Now, to your question, getting the first job could be challenging, but even delivering on the first job is even more challenging, because now you're coming in new, you're looking at this system for the first time. It's like, oh my goodness. I remember the first company that I worked for, it was a manufacturing company based out of Europe, and it's heavily customized environment, meaning that they don't have standard processes. And I'm used to standard processes from my research, my training, and all of that. So I look at this and I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Everything is customized. Z1. I was like, okay. But, you just have to work really hard. I used to spend extra hours after work to make sure I look into, those assignments or delivery that are assigned to me. And that's how the first time was challenging. After that, it was much more easier.
So it's almost like you're a mind reader also, aside being an SAP director. That was going to be the next question that I was going to ask you, was like, what were some challenges that you faced early in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think, having building the business acumen and having the deep knowledge of the system, it's going to be challenging. But I do believe you're really hardworking. There's a lot of tools and resources now that you can leverage. What I did at that point in time, I was just working extra hours to look into their system, their process, to understand and ask a lot of questions. I think one of the key attributes of a good SAP consultant, you must be able to ask questions. You must be able to ask the right questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you not using standard SAP? Why are you customizing the system? Why do you think this is the best way to get this data from? What are your processes? Why do you do this way? Ask questions and don't be afraid to ask questions. I think those are the things that helped me. And like I said, the first 3 months were quite challenging, but after that, it became a little bit much more easier.
So in this questioning process, is there a right or wrong answer, or do you have to be very flexible in your approach and understand the solution and bring in like your own perspective into it?
So there's no right or wrong answer, but again, you must be able to ask the right questions, right? Not just asking questions for the sake of asking questions. Let's be clear about that. You must be able to challenge them, right? Oftentimes, you see businesses, they're doing things this way because they don't know they could do it the other way. In the IT world, I always say there's multiple ways to solve a problem, but what is the most efficient, cost-efficient way to solve that problem for that customer? That's really important. So that's why you need to ask them those questions. Why use the customer solution for this? SAP has an out-of-box solution. Can we leverage that? Then they will now tell you, hey, John, it doesn't work for us. We've exploit that, but it doesn't meet a business requirement. Then you will understand that. But you must be able to ask the right questions.
Nice. So, what do you consider the most rewarding aspect of your job?
I think the most rewarding aspect of my job is solving complex problem for customer and delighting them. I think it's really rewarding. Apart from the fact that SAP has taken me around the world for free, I've traveled to almost all the continents of the world doing what I'm doing. Spend a lot of time in consulting. Going back to the industry, did some consulting work. What I consider the most rewarding part is to solve those complex business problems for those customers and delight them and deliver a credible solution for them, because it means a lot for the business, right? You're looking at savings of millions of dollars when you look at it. So you look at them saying, okay, you deliver this credible solution. This is what it means for the organization. They're going to save X, Y, Z number of millions of dollars just because you deliver this credible solution for them.
So you touched on something that was also interesting to me, right? It's the travel, because I know we've talked about this a lot. And how does that feel? Because I know that's something that interests a lot of people, like the ability to travel to so many places, experience different cultures, understand different ways that different companies do business. What has that experience been like for you?
I think it's really good. I think it gives you the global mindset kind of a thing. You work with different people from different walks of life. Their background is different from you, from different cultural values. You travel to different locations. Maybe you're doing the go live, or you're doing user accepted test, and you're there with them. And you see different places, different cultures. It kind of opens up your mindset, right? Saying, okay, just because you live in the United States of America and we do things this way, that doesn't mean people in Asia that they do this way, they are behind or whatever. And it could blow away your mind when you go to all this type of countries and you see the way they've advanced in technology. We're like, oh, I thought we were the best. Then you see something different. So I think it's very educating. It's enlightening for me, and it gives you that kind of a global mindset, citizen mindset for me.
Great. So this is a very, very interesting question that I'm sure a lot of people want to know. So, how much are you making before you got your first job in SAP? How much were you making in your first role? What is the career earning potential for someone in SAP? So let's say you're starting out entry level. This is how much you look to make. You kind of get to the midpoint. This is what you look to make, and this is kind of the big boys. This is kind of where they are. What does that look like?
Absolutely. Before I started SAP, I was making less than six figures, of course. Far from six figures. For SAP entry level, the average salary it's six figures, and I'm talking about in the mid 100s to be precise. And as you acquire more business acumen and experiences, it goes up. I don't think there's a cap on it, to be honest with you, Jerome. I mean, when I was in Deloitte, I've seen some partners making $1 million or more. So it depends.
$1 million.
Yeah. So it depends. It depends on the company, and some companies they give you some equity and all of that. So if you look at that, that's no cap. Let me just put it that way. But at least from entry salary standpoint, it's six figures. We're talking about 130, 140 thereabout. Those are the entry salary. Then as you have more experiences, multiple implementation under your belt, then your value goes up.
And something that kind of comes to mind there is one thing you can always tie to high earning potential is always demand, right? What is the demand level for different roles in SAP? Oh no, before we even go there, what are the different pathways? Because I think initially you talked about going the sales implementation route. What are the different pathways that someone can explore in SAP?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question, Joanne. So SAP, like I said, is a robust ERP application. So we'll call them modules, right? So you've got sales and distribution, which is How do you get your orders in? How do you do your delivery? How do you do your invoice? We've got what's called materials management. How do you manage your materials? Do you do manufacturing, repetitive manufacturing, digital manufacturing? Those are materials management. Production planning. If you're a production company, how do you do your production orders? Those lines. How do you convert production orders into your plan order to production orders? How you deliver that? We've got quality management is another module, right? Logistics execution capability, transport management. So there's a lot of modules in SAP itself. FICO, FICO. Of course, when you say you want to make that money, you want to record that into the right account. So that's financial accounting and controlling, plant maintenance. You can use SAP for anything. You can actually use SAP for project management as well. That's a component of SAP that does that. SAP has what is called human resource as well. We call it HR Mini Master. There's a component for that. So SAP has a solution for everything you could think of.
Almost every business
almost
process.
everything, not almost everything, for everything. So it depends how the company want to use it, right? So there's a HR component to that. There's a component for human resource. Manufacturing is there. What else? Different things depending on how you want to use it. But I focus over the years on system distribution, materials management, logistics execution, and supply chain initiatives. That's where I spend most of my time.
Is it actually possible for someone to know one person to know every part of SAP?
At some point, if you've done it for so many years, you will have deep understanding of those modules, but you would not be able to call yourself an expert. Now, I cannot call myself an expert in, PP, which is production planning. However, I do know production planning to an extent, right? Because I integrate with it all the time. I've done a lot of projects where I integrate with PP. Also, I cannot call myself as a FICO consultant or an expert. However, I know FICO to my extent. So to your question, I do not think anybody would be confident enough to say I'm an expert in all the modules, right? You have the basis component of that of SAP as well. You have the security, you have the GRC. So it's not possible. But you could, have exposure to all of these modules.
While being the main expert in certain modules.
Yeah.
Great. So, what advice would you have for someone trying to transition from a different career into SAP?
I think the first advice is for you to be willing to put in the work. And I think, like I said before, there's a lot of resources and tools that are actually free online that you can leverage. It's just a matter of, are you willing to put in the work and learn it? So my advice is, it's very doable. You just have to have had the mindset that you want to get this done. And I think, looking at, what is going to happen in 2024, there's an enormous opportunity for SAP consulting to be in very high demand as well. So maybe it's a good time we're having this conversation, Joe.
Yeah. And just to kind of quickly plug it, as Toye mentioned, I don't know if you all caught it, but Toye is running a training for SAP. If you're kind of looking into that area, I definitely think it's going to be a plug. But to the next question, there was something that you had mentioned about the challenges in your journey. Initially, you mentioned that it's a lot easier now. But what role does resilience still play even in the modern time of being able to successfully transition into their career in SAP in 2024?
Yeah, I think being resilient, is a key attribute for success. It's a recipe for success in anything you do, right? Even when you do all this beautiful project, you're going to run into multiple issues. You must be resilient. You must be forward thinking in your approach. You must be a unique problem solver for you to actually exceed anyway. So you must be persistent, resilient, continue to learn. You must love to learn new things because, technology is changing, it's fast changing. So you must be able to keep up to that. So I always encourage people, have an open mind to learning, be resilient, be persistent, don't give up, because there's going to be some tough times that is going to come your way. But you must have the mindset of, being not giving up, be resilient and solving those problems in those times of challenges and overcoming that. And that's going to be part of your success story as well.
So are there specific skills, both soft skills and hard skills, right, and technologies that will help you succeed in SAP aside from learning the platform itself?
Absolutely, Joan. That's a good question. I think one of the biggest soft skills in any corporate environment, even for SAP, is communication. If you are a very good communicator, I think that would help you a long way. Of course, team building is really important. You must be a good team player. You're working with the folks that are across the globe, right? Somebody is in Australia, somebody is in China or Singapore or North America. You must be able to, harness the power of our differences and use that to your advantage, not to your disadvantage, right? You use their strength you leverage their strength to your own advantage and continue to push forward to, be credible solutions and delight our customers. So again, teamwork, communication, it's really important, and having a mindset to solve problems.
That's really important. And I think you had also mentioned a bit of like business understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you start doing it, you will, increase your business understanding and business acumen, right? Your business process is really important. You need to understand the business processes. I think one thing that I need to touch on, you must show empathy as well. Empathy is really important. You must be able to put yourself in those customers' shoes and listen to their problems before you can actually solve the problem. You need to understand the problem for you to be able to solve that problem. Because if you don't listen very well, you would not understand where they are coming from. So you must be able to listen attentively, understand their problem. Then you can say, okay, now I understand your problem. I know where the problem is coming from. I think this is the solution.
And that's a very important thing that you touch on, because I think even as a product manager, that's like very important, like empathy and good understanding of what the customer challenges are. Would you say it's important to listen to what the customer is describing as the problem, but also the things that they're not talking about,
I
but
think
that you
it's
can
both.
sense?
I think it's
Mm,
both. That's why asking the right questions is really important. So
mm,
when you go into those meetings and those conversations with a customer, you want to listen to them saying, okay, this is my problem. I've got 2 trillion of data that I want to extract, whatever the problem could be. But why do you have that? What are you doing? Why are you not archiving data? You ask those questions. But, oh, we have a policy. We have to keep, accounting, data for 15, 20 years. Okay. Has that changed over the years? Can we, now make it 5 years? So you need to, dig in and listen to them and ask those right questions. Then, okay, then we're building a solution. I think, in the new solution, we can, improve our archiving policy. Let's make it 5 years. Let's reduce the data footprint, right? How many tables are we using? Can we reduce that? So, when you get into those conversations with them, you listen to them first. You understand where they're coming from. You put yourself in their shoes. Okay, if I was in this person's shoe, what would I do differently, right? Then based on that, you ask the right questions. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? You chime in your own perspective as well and your expertise, your recommendations, right? Then you come up with a viable solution. I think that's how it goes.
So, how do you maintain a work-life balance in an industry and role that's as challenging as yours?
That's $1 million question. I think work-life balance is really important for me. I'm a one of the biggest advocate for work-life balance within my team. I don't want somebody working over the weekend. What we do is already challenging enough. I want to spend good quality time with friends and family. That could be challenging as well. Sometimes, exceptionally, sometimes you might have to chime in 1 hour, 2 hours there, extra hour to do that. But we try as much as possible to prioritize work-life balance because that would affect the productivity of the team as well. You don't want your team to be burnt out, right? That will affect their productivity. So I encourage that. I know some organizations they just keep going, keep going. But I do not encourage that. I believe in work-life balance. I believe we work really hard. We should have time to do the things that we really like, right? Because we have a life before having a work. So that's what I say.
Mm,
And it's really important to look at it from that perspective. And that's what I tell my team as well. Please, if you need to take PTO time off, please do. Take some time off, go relax, you disconnect and recharge, and come back, refilled and energetic, and do what you love to do.
mm. That was a major key right there. You know, um, Work-life balance is an important part of productivity. So it doesn't only help the person kind of like having that break, but also helps the company be more productive in general. That's dope.
Absolutely.
So, have you taken any certifications or courses in general, or do you think that their certifications or courses are important in SAP?
So as you continue your SAP journey, then it becomes much more nice to have. I tell people, You don't really need to be certified in SAP to be an SAP consultant in the US. However, in some European organizations, you need to be certified. I've gotten tons of certification over the years, right? So again, it's just another layer of validation saying you know what you do, right? Now you're certified. It's a piece of paper. That doesn't mean you have the experience, but at least, for a potential employer, I'm like, okay, at least he's certified. Something. At least he knows the basis of all these processes, right? So that's what certification is all about. Again, I always tell people it's a nice to have, but the key certifications in the SAP, I've got tons of certifications, right? So you got to pick the one that you like the most. S4HANA is the latest version of SAP. If you can get certified in any of the modules, Sales Associates SD 1901, 2020, 2021, 2022, those are good ones. Ariba is a procurement solution from SAP. It's going to be a hot topic going to 2024. I see that mindset shift from organization standpoint, looking into procurement and integrating that into their ERP applications and processes. That's a good one. Materials management is always good. Any certification in SAP is always good.
That's really great. So, how important is networking and community engagement in SAP, and how has that? Have you done any of that, and how has that affected your career?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in networking. I tell people network, network, network. If you work for like global organization, your success it's almost dependent on the people you know, the people you network. Also, your growth is almost directly proportional to the people you network and you know, right? So in consulting, we call it consulting 101, right? It's networking, 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 right? So when you have a problem or you run into a challenge on this project, you know who you're going to go talk to or the group of people that have done it before. That helps to solve that problem quickly and faster. So networking, even outside of work, it's really important as well. I believe in saying that your network is tied to your network. So networking is really important for your success in any career, not only in SAP, even in life as well. Even you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, or whatever you do. I believe in networking, and I belong to many organizations where I just go network with like-minded people. Just share ideas and get to talk.
Yeah, that's really important. Hey, if you've been getting value from this so far, don't forget to hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button to see more awesome content from experts across different fields. I'm sure y'all never thought we'll bring on an SAP expert, but here we are. So if you want to see more amazing people, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's keep growing together, and we'll bring you way more content, way more exciting content. Um, so, what do you think about diversity in SAP? Again, given that this is something that's not even widely known, I imagine that there's not going to be a lot of people who look like us who are in SAP. Again, that's an assumption, but you can debunk it. And then, second of all, is like, what do you think is a solution to get those numbers up? If it's kind of like what I'm suspecting.
Yeah. So I'm a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, right, Juwan? I've done so many, project with, chief diversity officer of big organizations promoting, people like that looks like me in the ERP world. I do believe that we are underrepresented, to be honest with you, from what I've seen over the years. That's why I think somebody like you continue to have this kind of conversations and bring awareness to people, because I think the enterprise users planning application world is not well spoken about. Like you said, a lot of people don't know what SAP actually does. Maybe they've heard it one or twice. They don't even have people that does SAP. But I think we need to change the conversation and continue to engage more people and enlighten them and educate them that this is what SAP does. For a fact, we are actually underrepresented. And that is the reason I started Seamless Innovation Training Academy, to train people and bring people that looks like me and you into the ERP application world, so that we can have more people. But how to solve that, I think it's just having more of this kind of conversations, engaging people, educating them, and encourage them to, look into that kind of area as well.
That's great. Um, and for anybody who's kind of like wondering what an ERP is enterprise resource planning. Toye touched on it earlier, but I just kind of like wanted to bring that back. So, looking back, what would you consider the most important lesson you've learned in your career so far?
The most important lesson, not even in my career, I think that drives me every day is never give up. I tell people if you give up, you never actually wanted it anyway. If you really want something, you find a way to make it work or to get it. So never give up. Obstacles is going to come. You're going to run into challenges, but you must be able to harness your inner power to overcome that and never give up and continue to push forward until you're super successful. I think that's the most important lesson or
Do you
key.
have any story that highlights that? And before you answer that, hey, we're getting closer to that point where we're taking audience questions. So if you have any questions, you want to learn about SAP, the platform, the different modules, the career prospects, how to transition, whatever those questions are, drop them in the comments. We're going to take them one after the other. Drop those questions, and then I'm sure Toye is going to be more than happy to answer them. But yeah, do you have any personal stories that not giving up has helped you make a breakthrough or something like that?
I think SAP itself, when I started SAP, like I said, when I started almost 2 decades ago, I only know one guy that was doing SAP at that point in time. And today the guy doesn't even do SAP anymore. Now he's I think he's a senior director, vice president for NetSuite, which is a smaller ERP application for smaller businesses. That was the only guy I knew. So I was just doing this research by myself, did a lot of interviews, gotten a lot of no's, right? Oh, we're sorry, you're not a good fit. Oh, we enjoy talking to you. We're not going to move forward. This kind of email, it could be depressing sometimes. So when you get multiples of like, oh my goodness, is this going to come? But, when you have the mindset that this is what you really want to do, you continue to, improve on the things that you think you can improve on, improve your knowledge, continue to do research, and continue to be better. And for not giving up, then there's a price for that, right? So you pay the price now, then it comes the success thereafter.
So pay the price, and then the success comes after. That's great. So if you had to kind of like reconstruct, let's take it back 15, 18, 20 years, right? You're restarting this whole journey all over again. Knowing what you know now, how would you build that journey out? For example, let's say you were going through a self-taught route and you probably don't even have a college degree. How would you build out that process? So, for example, I'm going to go learn XYZ. I'm going to build a resume this way. I'm going to apply to such and such companies. Like, where do you even find the jobs, right? What are the best platforms to find those opportunities?
Yeah.
And what, again, I think you've kind of like covered enough of the interview, but just kind of like help me build out a process that somebody who's kind of like in that place right now can take and go use it.
Yeah, I think if I want to do it all over again, in the current landscape that we are today, I will leverage all the online platforms that are out there. YouTube is an incredible learning platform, free of charge. Listen to as many YouTubes as possible. It's very easy. You could be working out, you could be taking a walk, just listen to these videos. It doesn't cost you anything. Again, what I would do better is to have more network. At that point in time, when I was starting, I was like, I don't, we're from Africa. I don't want to talk to these people. Now I would, just go to any networking event, go talk to, people that are like-minded and all of that. That would help you. I've seen people getting jobs because they talk to somebody. And that's somebody remember them saying, oh, I spoke with this guy. He said he's interested in SAP. I want to hire somebody for SAP. Are you interested? And they get a job, right? So I think that's really important. Leverage, online tools. Free learning is out there. If there's any training, take some training. Coursera is a great platform. It's cheap. You could take all those trainings on Coursera, do certifications, network. And I think that those are the key things. Also, I'm a strong advocate for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an incredible platform where if you have a good profile and you do your LinkedIn optimization very well, you will show up on recruiters list and you've had the right keywords, right? That's an incredible platform. And I think a lot of people, they're not leveraging the power of LinkedIn, right? So I always encourage people, spend a lot of time on your LinkedIn profile, make it very professional, have the right keywords, optimize your LinkedIn profile, and the rest is an history. A lot of my work, the job that I've done over the years, a lot of them, 90% came from LinkedIn. I'm not even looking for a job because I'm always active on LinkedIn. Somebody will just reach out, hey, from XYZ company, we like your profile. Let's talk about it. Let's have a chat. That's how those conversations happens. And you end up seeing that this is an incredible opportunity that you can't even pass or say no to. So for those people listening, LinkedIn is an incredible platform that you want to leverage. Of course, you have your Indeed, Dice, and all of those platforms, Career Builder. You can leverage that. But the number one on my list is LinkedIn, Juan.
So LinkedIn is the number one place to find opportunities. Great, great. I mean, that checks out with what I've heard from most people. I think even recruiters spend a lot of time because they know that a lot of it's not like information there is not falsifiable, but it's just more legitimate than looking at a piece of paper. It kind of like adds more context. Okay, we have one other audience question, but again, like I said, like, subscribe, don't let's keep this going. But before we do that, I'm just going to ask one final question. So I know that over the course of your career, you've had the opportunity to work in many different organizations, right?
Yeah.
When do you know that it's time to kind of like go to the next adventure? When do you feel like it's time to move on to the next thing?
I think that's $1 million question, Joan. That's a good question. I don't think there is any time you would know. A lot of moves that I've done over the years is just based somebody reaching out to me on LinkedIn, like I said, saying, "Hey, I saw your profile, I like it. We're looking for XYZ, somebody in SAP that's going to help us do XYZ." Then we just started talking. Then you look at the organization, they're doing amazing things. Look at the growth trajectory; it's super impressive. Maybe the conversation is robust as well. Like, okay, let's talk about it. But some people, they have a benchmark where they say, okay, 3 to 5 years is the right time. For me, I don't have a set time. I just let God lead me, but a lot of times that's led me into an amazing opportunity that shaped my career.
That's great. So the right moment is the right opportunity, essentially.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, so we're gonna go to the first audience question. This one is from John K25, and he asks, how do you handle situations where technical jargon gets overwhelming, especially for people who are new to SAP?
Yeah, I think that's a valid question. So my recommendation for people that are new to SAP is Google, YouTube, wherever that's a jargon to you. Maybe I was talking about EDI, which is electronic data interface. Go to YouTube, type it in there. SAP EDI, what does it mean? You will see a whole bunch of materials, videos, articles on EDI. You read about it. Now you understand EDI. Then it doesn't become a jargon the next time you hear about it. You go to Google, you type in what is EDI, what does it mean? EDI SAP, what does it do? Then you learn. So I think that's the only recommendation. And if you have people that have been in the industry for a long time, you can pick up a phone. I call them. Maybe Juwan is your friend. I say, Juwan, what's going on? I heard about this. Micromanagement and product management. What does it mean? He can just tell you in a minute. Say, hey, oh, that's a process we use for XYZ. If you don't want to go into you're researching it yourself. But my first recommendation is to leverage the online platforms and tools that you have. Research it on Google or YouTube. That would be my first recommendation.
And you know what's interesting, to just kind of like piggyback off of what you said. I remember interviewing for a company that used tools like Reiki, Quip, and all these other tools. And they put it there in the job description that, ability to use these tools. And I was going to go into this interview and say, I'm not familiar with them. And somebody says, are you crazy? Why would you say you're not familiar with them? Go watch 5-minute YouTube videos on these topics, right? And now when you go there, say, oh, I'm familiar. I haven't used them, but I'm familiar with them. And they're similar to X, Y, Z.
That's what they need to know.
Even though all it took was 5-minute research, you are giving a much better answer. That somebody goes, and oftentimes if you think about interviews, the person interviewing you will never know if they made the right decision or not. But oftentimes it's about de-risking that decision. So someone who knows what the requirement is and doesn't say, I don't know, actually says I'm familiar and gives you some comparison, you have way more confidence in that candidate than you would somebody who just shows up and says, well, what is that? I don't know.
I'm not putting a bet on this guy. I want to put my bet on the other guy.
And interestingly, especially now when the job market is so competitive, those little, so it's not saying I don't know necessarily is a problem. It's just like, how much can you de-risk yourself as a candidate to where somebody feels comfortable making that decision and saying, this is the right person, right? This is the right fit. Okay, so Janine is asking, what are some entry level roles that someone new to SAP could apply for?
So many entry roles, right? So you will see those descriptions as junior SAP business analyst, junior SAP consultant. Those are entry level. Once you get to senior consultant, they're looking for 7 to 10 years of experience, right? Then once you go from there, you go to solution architect or senior consultant. You go to solution architecture. They're looking for 15, 20 years of experience. Then go to director level. Dependent. But some of the entry roles is SAP business analyst, SAP consultant, junior consultant. Those are the junior level roles, entry roles that you can apply for.
And is it easier to get into specific areas of SAP, for example, like the sales and distribution module or the materials management, or those different modules? Are some more beginner friendly than others?
So based on my experience and interacting with multiple experienced SAP professionals across different modules and industry, I do believe, and based on data, that sales and distribution materials management is in higher demand than FICO or PP, because it cuts across all industry sectors. You've got to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
So, and that's sales and distribution. It involves your order processing, your invoicing, how you get your money. Production planning, not our organization are producing something, right? So it might not be as lucrative or enticing or in high demand as sales and distribution. So that's why you would see a lot of people, they've done FICO, they want to switch to sales and distribution and materials management because of the higher demand. That's based on my understanding and my experience. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but that's what I believe. Because sales and distribution and materials management is the core of any organization. You've got to sell something to make money. I don't care if you use manufacturing, if you don't use manufacturing, if you're selling services, if you're an energy company or you're into entertainment, you've got to sell something to make money. So I think that's why sales and distribution is much more in higher demand.
So it could be software, it could be tickets,
it could be anything.
Anything. You got to sell something to make money. Yeah. So Trey is asking, what does full lifecycle SAP implementation mean?
Right, Trey, that's a good question. So the full lifecycle implementation of SAP means that the project inception. So whereby the project team will gather saying, hey, we want to implement SAP, right? Then from the project team saying, okay, these are the requirements. You gather the requirements. You go through the workshops. We as a consultant, we come in, they'll bring us in, we go through the what we call the requirement gathering workshop with them, saying, okay, this is your requirement. We ask a bunch of questions. We gather those questions. Then based on that, we develop what is called a functional specification for their requirement. Then we turn that functional specification into what is called a technical specification. Okay. Then based on that, we do what is called unit testing. We do, integration testing. Then after that, we do what is called user accepted testing, which is we are telling the business saying we build a solution based on your requirement. Can you now go into the system and test it? So they've got to test it and sign off on it. That's what we call the UAT sign off. Once you do the UAT sign off, then you now prepare for your what is called a cutover. The cutover is just the activities that you're doing that you have to do to get ready to go into a live new system, right? There's some activity that needs to happen, your transport, the sequence of those transport, how it needs to go into the system. Then you go live. Now, once you go live, the new system is now live. What that means, you're releasing it to the business. There's a couple of components where we do business readiness, site readiness, deployment strategy. If it's a global organization, we talk about all of that. Then, they go live. It could be a staggered approach where you would, go live in different regions. Maybe you do North America first. Then, after that, you take that learnings, then you go to Europe or you go to Asia. Then once they go live, you support them. We call it hypercare or warranty, depending on the organization. This is where you spend at least 1 to 2 months to stabilize the system. We call it system harmonization, right? We stabilize the system, we give them 24-hour support. Any critical ticket, we resolve them. Then we turn it back into the support team. So that's the full lifecycle implementation of SAP, what it means. So from the inception of the project to go live and supporting the business and make sure this is running on the basis. Good question, Trey.
That's really interesting. So Maxine has also another question. It says, what motivates you to keep learning as an SAP professional, and how can beginners find their own motivation?
Yeah, like I said before, I think that's a good question. Like I said before, I love to solve problems. I'm a strong believer that if you solve problems for a big organization, it gives me my sense of happiness. Like, oh, that was a problem. It's like I went to an organization. They found this problem for 15 years, and the first 90 days I was tasked to solve that problem for them. Right. So I look into the problem. Oh my goodness, this we're talking about $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar organization, and I look at that problem. Then I came up with a solution. I designed the entire solution, presented the solution to the team, saying based on my critical analysis, this is what I think we should do, X, Y, Z. They implemented the solution. The solution was accepted, and it turned out, it saved them in the first quarter $10 million in terms of shipment cost savings. I mean, these are the kind of things that excites you. You want to do more, right? I think those are the things that excites me, and also one thing that I like, I want to learn more. The more you do these things, the more you learn, right? I can talk about SAP from now till I don't know, whatever, because it gives me joy. I'm like, oh, that let's talk about it. Oh, this one, let's talk about it. And it's a robust system, so you keep learning. Even I've seen people that have done it for 30, 40 years, you still keep learning. So that keeps my level of curiosity going, and I think that's what keeps me going, solving couple of problems for customers and delighting them with credible solutions from SAP.
So, how much of that learning happens um, from your own not understanding? How much of that happens like internally, like you picking up things versus like going to read, research or watch a video or do a course? Like how much is that?
I think it's a combination of both, Joanne. So you're gonna have the hands-on experience as you do this project. However, some problems might be unique that you've not seen it before. There's some platform where consultants come in, SAP consultants come in, they post questions, you can go search that. But you might have a scenario where you have a unique problem that nobody has done it before. So that's where you have to go think outside the box and say, okay, how can we solve this problem? Maybe it should take you 1 day to solve it. It might take you 2 weeks to solve it, but you have to, rack your brain, look at what are possible solutions, present multiple solutions, and give your recommendations to the business, saying, okay, this is what I believe we should be doing. So you will have those unique scenarios, but there's a lot of platform you can leverage as well.
Great, great. Hey, big shout out to Olabi Tijani. It says very detailed and informative session. I told y'all this was gonna be fire. Big shout out to Toye. He's great. He's super knowledgeable at what he does, and I'm sure that I'm really excited that you guys are getting a lot of value out of it. Maxine also has another follow-up question that says, "What are some common misconceptions that are not true about SAP?"
I think that's a good question. I think a lot of people, when they hear SAP, they feel like it's a very complex system. I think it's just a mindset, right? If you have a learner's mindset and growth mindset, I think SAP it's just a tool. If you can learn how to use an iPhone or Android phone, you can learn SAP. Trust me. And there's a lot of resources out there that will teach you how to do that. So I think it's a misconception, because a lot of people, when I talk to people, you do SAP, oh, SAP. They don't even call it SAP. They do SAP. I'm like, okay, I know you don't even know SAP for calling it SAP. It's not SAP, it's SAP, and it's not as complex as people think. Trust me. If you can do it, anybody can do it.
Oh, and how important is actually having that mindset, right? In terms of like not thinking about difficulty, because sometimes it's like the biggest problem is getting over that hurdle in your mind, right?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you believe that?
so you think about it, right? Whatever you can achieve in your mind, you can achieve it in the real world. So you
Hmm.
must have that kind of mindset. And I believe in the power of mindset. If you think you can do this, trust me, you will probably be able to do it. But if you have the mindset, say, I'm going to solve this problem, no matter how many times I'm going to fail, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to keep going until I solve that problem. So that's why I say you need to have that kind of mindset of continuous learning and growth mindset. That would help you. But again, in grand scheme of things, it's not as hard as people think. It's a simple tool. You just have to learn it. It might take some time to learn it, but you gain that experience as you continue to work on those projects.
Hmm. So can SAP be used in a smaller company or startup?
Absolutely. So SAP, is a licensed organization. So if your company is a small, even though the idea behind SAP when they started so many years ago, they started with mid-sized organizations, but now big companies are using it. So it could be used, but you have to look at the cost efficiency as well. So if you're paying XYZ dollar to get a CP license, are you actually getting that value back, right? So that's why you see some organizations that will use PeopleSoft, which is an ERP application as well. Maybe that's a smaller organization, right? Some organizations here they will use NetSuite, right? Some will go to Oracle, because licensing for SAP could be a little bit pricey, right? But what you get in return, it's enormous. It's enormous cost savings. With the S4HANA capability, real life data analytics capability to make data-driven decisions, saving organizations millions and billions of dollars. So it can be used, but you need to look at the cost implication aspect of it.
So you had talked about Oracle's NetSuite as a competitor to SAP in some sense. Are there other like solutions just to kind of like help people be a bit more familiar with other offerings that might be out there, or kind of like just better help their understanding?
Yeah, I mean, so ERP is an enterprise resource planning application. Microsoft 360 Dynamics is it's more or less like an ERP application. Oracle is an ERP application. PeopleSoft is an ERP application. NetSuite is an ERP application. Navision. There's a low bunch of them out there, right? But of course, SAP is the number one leader. SAP is the biggest, and it's the most widely used. And that's why the job potential for SAP will always be there, because organization will continue to do business, they will continue to make money, and for that to happen, it has to be powered by SAP.
I think that's a really, really, really great note to kind of like end it on. I don't think we have any further questions at this point. Did you want to say any last resort advice, any last
I
word?
think there's one question from Bolu Ajayi.
Oh yeah, I asked that. I said, oh well, maybe I asked it in a different way. How can SAP help in a smaller company or startup? I think that.
Okay, so what SAP does is to look at your business processes, and you match your business processes to SAP to drive your business processes today. So that's why SAP is being used differently by every organization. The way Google is going to use SAP is going to be different from the way Microsoft is going to use it. It's going to be different from the way Mercedes is going to use it, or the BM is going to use it, right? Or Sony, cinemas, or Moody's in New York. So it depends. So SAP is so flexible that you can actually adapt it to your business process. So that's our SAP business process organizations. You can adapt it to the way you do business, pretty much.
And maybe we go here, since you're doing the training. I think it's coming up in January, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
What exactly is in your training, and what can people expect to learn? What's the duration? How, like, just general information about it, just in case anyone is interested.
Seamless Training Academy, it's 8 weeks of hands-on training, where I go through the training itself. Then I give access to the tool whereby you can go into the system, you get familiarized with SAP itself, you do some customization based on the homework that I give. I have a playbook that I've created over the years. There's some short videos that you can watch that gives you the breakdown of the configuration and all of that. Then after that, I do what is called interview LinkedIn prep as well. So where we look into your LinkedIn profile, we optimize it. We help you with resume. We look at your resume, we revamp it. We make sure the right keywords are there. Then we'll prep you for interview. Then we'll have what is called a job strategy class. That's another few weeks of strategy. How do you answer interview questions? How do you speak? How do you sell yourself? We go through that strategy. Then you land the job. Then we support you as well. So it's an hand-to-hand, robust, holistic solution that I've created over the years for my students, and that's what you should expect from my training class.
Okay, so if y'all are interested in it, definitely go check them out on. I think LinkedIn is probably like since we're on the topic of LinkedIn, connect with him. That will be your first connection in the SAP world, so to speak. Thank you, Toye, for coming on. I'm really happy to have everyone here. Happy New Year in advance. I hope you guys have been enjoying your holidays. Next week, we're bringing on a product manager who works in FANG, and he's going to be breaking down how he built that career, the challenges he faced along the way. So definitely don't miss that one. Like, subscribe, and if you have any friends who are interested in any roles in tech, share this stream with them. We have one final question. I don't know if that's on something you want to answer or you want them to reach out, but
Yeah, I think I would rather pass on that. Let them reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always active on LinkedIn. I'm a strong believer in LinkedIn. Connect with me, and you can shoot me a direct message. We can talk.
okay. Okay, great. So yeah, definitely reach out to him. But this has been really great. This has cool. Thank you so much. I remember the very first time I came on your webinar, I was mind blown, and that was why I was like, you know what? This has to be out there. People have to know exactly what it is. So thanks so much, Toye, for coming on. And that's our show for tonight. Uh, see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John.